we just gonna talk about it. Yes, I'm going through the car wash, but this is so random, and I'm not on here to be offensive to anyone. It does take two to be in a relationship. It does take two people to understand and to want to move forward. But there was a lot of things that hurt me. Whether it was based on my insecurity or me just not understanding my value or my worth. Of course, not seeing the full picture as to how I was even influencing, people to treat me. And I want to just say I thank God for allowing me to better develop myself to not make those same mistakes again. And life is about a journey that you don't know the roadway or how to take, but we're going to take everything that goes with it, knowing that God is with us and that we have faith in our minds that things will be better as long as you're putting in work. Uh, Traumatizing things, a lot of things that hurt me, and I would just let it go. I would just let those things go. I never really even probably took it serious until it was serious, until it was like red flag. But when you allow people to misuse and literally abuse you, that's you discrediting yourself. It is not pleasing in the eyesight of God, and you kind of know at this point in your life when it's time to hang it up, but you stick around, and you possibly even think that the more good I am to them, they'll be even better to me, and that's just not the case. And I found myself trying to please them more than I wanted to please myself. I mean, literally, like losing interest of myself because of the toxicity of me believing and thinking that, things were going to get better. And oftentimes, I gave excuses, or I really believe like I started to literally just like wipe it out of my system, if that makes sense. Like my mind, like things would happen, and then as a trauma response, I would just like, how do you say it? Like I would literally like probably not even think about it one way or another, because in my mind it was like, well, you've already been through it, or you've already seen it, or you've researched it, or you read it, hey, time will tell. And that's not a good way to look at any situation that you're going through. If it is abusive or overly traumatizing to you, that is not something that you need to be a part of, and you should seek family, friends, your closest confidant help in the best way that you can. But I would just allow for people to say and do things, and quote unquote went numb. And it's just like, as I reflect back on those things, I realized that I wasn't doing anything but hurting myself. I was stopping myself from joy. My mental was drained. I just lost myself. And although people would see me and say, weight wise, okay, you look good, or you're smiling, or, hey, you're looking good, girl. Faking it, just faking it. And in my mind, it just became very silly. Like I literally was looking at the situation like, here it is, all this time, investment later. And no matter how good or well or catering or nice I've been, it didn't matter. None of that really mattered. When someone is not for you, there will be several situations that prove to you that that person is not for you. And you can't, gauge it by how nice you are to somebody, or, you can't gauge it by what you do for someone. If they don't value you, they're not going to value what you do. If they don't respect you, they're not going to respect what you have going on. I mean, whether it's home, your vehicle, taking advantage of finances, hovering over your personality, trying to say that You know, when you're in a respectable, natural element and you're being, you know, who you should be respectfully, no matter what, and they're like, oh, you're too friendly, you know, or they get insecure and they start looking a little funny. You know, they can't fathom that you have other family or relationships in your life, meaning mentors or connectors or, you know, people who are guiding you to be in your best light. You know, they have little interest in listening to who you are. And I don't even like one-sided conversations. So you always should allow for that person to speak and for that person to have a moment to, you know, digest what you're saying and to give you a response. But if they are, you know, just like out of it, they're literally looking at their phone or they're literally paying attention to something else every time you speak or every time you bring up something of life, you know, it's just not a good place to be in. It's really not. And I pray that everyone who has unfortunately experienced this can understand that that's not something that you deserve. And I know, like I said in the beginning, some people are just mean. Men, women, some people are just mean. Some people, hey, no matter, you know, if they were their best person, they would still be the worst person to you or for you. So I understand the gray area there, but just overall, the experience of that, it's shocking. You know, it's shocking to look back and to analyze things and to know that you didn't value yourself or that you didn't have confidence about yourself or that, you know, you doubted yourself or you felt like you couldn't get better or have better. That's the part that aches for me. And women and people and men who have went through these experiences, the fact that in that moment our mind was so clouded and our mind was so, you know, just filled with BS that we didn't even see our self-worth. You know, that we didn't even look in the mirror and say, you know what? You know, we you know, in those moments we just was clueless to ourselves, you know, whether it's mom, being a wife, tailoring to your family that needs you, whatever that may be, going to your job. That's all we would tailor to. In those moments, it just makes my heart ache that we didn't even look or notice ourselves in that process. And it's like we block it out and we don't want to channel it, you know? And then it goes into the next situation or it goes into the next relationship or it goes into the next transaction because we haven't analyzed what position we played in it, number one, and why it was not pleasing to God. But then we never analyzed the trauma to not make it again, you know, to not make that same mistake again. And that's what makes my heart ache. The fact that we'll tell people what we've been through, but we don't speak on the part of in that moment, whether it was 10 years, 15 years, we forgot about ourselves. We didn't even think about ourselves, you know, or our children or, you know, family. We didn't even think about who was affected by it, you know. So it's like, it's just something that we all need to speak about. We need to talk about it more. We need to be open about what role we played. And we need to ensure that we do better and seek God for understanding. Because sometimes you'll talk to yourself, and I know it's very confusing to understand a lot. So, let's stop making those mistakes. Let's stop making those situations. Let's stop blaming others, and let's take accountability for what we did, as no one deserves on any level to go through those traumatic experiences. But I do know that you can find understanding out of those situations, and that you can get away from that traumatic experience and improve on yourself to not make that experience, occur again, and to do better and choose better and be a new breath of light. And I know that we do have the power to better ourselves and just ensure that it doesn't happen again, honestly. So that was a little breather, a little segment, and I pray that you found strength to do what you need to do to ensure that you're safe. And knowing that you're protected by God, you'll gain the strength to seek the positive realm and exit that situation and own that situation, even though it hurts, or to, remember that situation in the past as the past, and to not feel like you have to carry that on you for the rest of your life, as God forgives you. But you got to forgive you too. You all be blessed. Like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me something good in the comments. That's what I really want to hear. Tell me something good in the comments, and I'll be back soon.